I had just inherited $11 million and rushed home to tell my husband. But a terrible accident left me in the hospital. To my shock, he never once visited. You know that moment when your entire world shatters in an instant? That gut-wrenching realization that everything you thought was real was just a lie? Well, for me, it started the day I woke up in a hospital bed, my body a mangled mess, only to find out my own husband had declared me dead and married someone else. Someone who, in a twist of fate I could never have imagined, was actually my long-lost daughter. I was driving home, practically vibrating with excitement. I had life-changing news for Eric, news that would free us from our financial struggles forever. But then, in a terrifying blur of metal and screams, my world quite literally crashed around me. When I finally woke up in that sterile hospital room, every inch of me screamed in agony. Hours turned into days, but Eric, my husband, never showed. When I finally reached him, his words were colder, sharper than any of my injuries. Now, as I lay here watching him walk in with his new wife, I never expected her to look at me and scream those words. This is how my life fell apart, and then came back together in ways I never imagined. My relationship with my Uncle James? Complicated, to say the least. He was my dad's older brother, but a massive family feud over the business had split them decades ago. We barely acknowledged each other at holidays. Yet, I clung to these vivid, almost magical childhood memories of visiting his sprawling countryside estate. He'd show me his rare books, tell me thrilling tales of his business adventures abroad. James was a self-made millionaire, a legend in real estate, but his personal life was empty. No wife, no kids, just work. What I didn't know then was that he'd been secretly watching me, tracking my progress over the years. You remind me of myself, he told me once when I was 12. Smart, stubborn, not afraid to speak your mind. After college, he started sending me birthday cards and letters. I'd reply politely, still unsure how to bridge that family chasm. They were just mundane updates, business insights, a few questions about my life. I never realized he was carefully, quietly building a connection with the niece he barely knew. Then 6 months before the accident, a distant cousin told me Uncle James had advanced heart disease. I went to see him, and he looked so frail, a shadow of the imposing man I remembered. But his eyes, they lit up when I walked in. "Morgan," he whispered, "I always knew you would come back." That visit sparked weekly ones. We talked for hours, catching up on lost time, never once mentioning the feud with my dad. It was a silent agreement to start fresh. Life is too short for grudges, he told me during one of our last conversations. I learned that lesson too late. 3 months later, he passed peacefully in his sleep. I mourned him more deeply than I ever expected. As for Eric, our love story began 7 years ago at an art exhibition. I was there, a young writer for a local lifestyle magazine, and he was one of the featured artists. His abstract paintings were stunning, and when he spoke about his work, he had this magnetic confidence, this passion. Art is about seeing the world differently, he'd said, finding beauty in chaos. We started dating, married within a year in a small, perfect ceremony we could barely afford. Eric was determined to make it as an artist, and I supported him wholeheartedly, taking a stable job at an ad agency to keep us afloat while he chased his dream. For the first few years, it was wonderful. We lived in a modest apartment, saved every penny, and dreamed of our future. He'd paint late into the night. I'd edit ad copy. We were partners, a team. But the last 2 years, everything changed. Eric's career stagnated, the rejections piled up, and they chipped away at him. He became moody, withdrawn, disappearing for hours without explanation. When I asked, he'd snap, saying he needed space or was networking. Our bank account dwindled as he blew money on expensive materials for projects that never materialized. Full story on the channel. Link below. Click now and watch what happened next.